Wade Williford, welcome to, it's so fun to have you. Welcome to the Mark Shoeline Passion Project.
I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you and I have talked a lot about this for a long time, and we've talked about different iterations, the way this could go. But it's super cool to have you here, so thanks for making the time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Super fun. It's always fun to, like, the setup is like, what do I want to say about this person? What do people want to know or need to know? Because part of today, as you know from my past pods, it's all about connecting the dots. Because if you're a paddler from anywhere in California, Hawaii, you know Wade Williford. But you probably don't know the whole story. They know a part of it. You know you as a passionate paddler, a collector of paddles, on and on and on. We'll talk about those things. But, you know, how many people know that you're an elementary school teacher? How many people know that you do these incredible long distance paddles and things? And one of the things about you that I think is one of my favorite traits is that you're one of those people, and please take this the right way. You know, I always like people, I like super successful people that you would not know are successful. I like to know that people are some of the smartest people in the room, but you would never know.
That's very nice.
I like people that are badass athletes, but you wouldn't necessarily think of it by looking at them, you know, and you're definitely one of those. So super fun to have you here. Super impressive person. I love that we get to dig into it today. So again, thanks.
Well, I said a little bit earlier that I feel a little bit like I'm in imposter syndrome land here with like, okay, there's so many other people you could talk to about all this. So I'm really stoked to be here. So thank you.
No, it's fun. Well, listen, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but like if I have a friend that is as much of a podcast dork as me, it's you.
Yes.
And a lot of the things that we both are passionate about, headspace and tools and tactics of how to be our best selves and high performance and all that stuff. We talk about that stuff a lot.
Yes.
So you're the perfect candidate to be here. I mean, this is a passion project, my passion project, but if there's a passionate paddler out there.
Well, I appreciate that. And, hopefully that comes across as well.
Oh, no. Trust me, my friend. It comes across. Just ask if Kelly and Will of one of our favorite podcasts collectively, as from Cocktails and Canoe are here, who would they say is their number one follower? Their number one fan?
Well, that'd be me.
Of course. And you're the one that waits to the second that it drops, and you've listened to it before most people have woken up the next morning.
That is true. I am the reason that she used to publish it at 6 a.m. and I'm like, I get up at 4. I'd really like to listen to it while I'm drinking my coffee. Yes. So could you drop it a little earlier?
Yes. So not to say that you're transparent, but it's pretty clear. Like if you're in the paddling world, if you paddle outrigger in California primarily, people know who you are.
Well, that's very nice.
You're also not afraid to do the hard work. So we're sitting here in Newport, Costa Mesa. It's 10:18 in the morning. You live in San Diego?
Yep.
How'd you get here? What'd you do? What was your morning like?
My morning was get up at 3 a.m., 3:05 to be exact. Feed the dogs, which we have 7 of.
Yeah, you collect those too. We'll talk about them as well.
And then drive on up here. Go and do Willie's workout
what's a Willie workout?
So Willie Reichenstein has been doing these workouts for, I think we're going on about 40 years now. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning. Thursday is sprints. So it's get up here, rig the canoe, get out on the water, 5:45-ish, get off the water by 7.
Get your coffee by 7:45.
Exactly.
Was it nice and warm this morning?
I think 42.
Yeah, it was freaking cold this morning. I was out there with you. It was darn
you
cold.
Were?
Darn cold.
I thought you'd gone back and had been the smarter of the two and had stayed in the warmth.
No, you know me. I do extra credit.
Exactly.
You can't always see me out there. It's all good. Well, listen, so we can banter about this stuff all day, but I promise we'll dig into the paddling. We'll dig into some of your other, the 7 dogs. I thought it was 17, but we'll call it 7 dogs. But I think it's really fun to find out how you got here. Here with you as a paddler that has been paddling at a pretty high level for a long time, pretty passionate about it. But there's a lot of other facets to you that are worth digging into. But some of what I don't know, Wade, and we're going to start at the beginning. Where did you grow up? And let's go from there.
Okay, so this is where it becomes a little convoluted, and you have to follow.
Hold on, your whole story is a little convoluted, so
I recognize that.
Fitting.
So I was born in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, see, I had no idea.
Moved up to Washington, D.C., moved out to Marion, Illinois, moved to Leavenworth, Kansas. And yes, Leavenworth is in the penitentiary. So my dad worked for the Bureau of Prisons, the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And then after Leavenworth, we moved out to San Diego. My dad was the warden at the Metropolitan Correctional Center down in San Diego.
So how old were you when you ended up in San Diego?
I was 10, almost 11. So we moved out here in January of 81. And I was 10. I turned 11 in April. And I've really been in California and embraced being a Californian since 1981.
And so you had already lived in multiple homes, multiple cities by the time you got here at 11 years old.
Yeah, and always been involved with sports. Primarily, I was a soccer player, but I played soccer, I played basketball, I played baseball, moving across, and soccer was just where my passion was. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't have the best eyesight, so baseball, I was a great fielder, couldn't hit worth beans. In basketball, I was a great defender, couldn't shoot. So,
But you grew up playing team sports.
Yeah.
And where in San Diego were you?
So I lived in La Mesa. So Helix High School, which for those people that know who Bill Walton, Reggie Bush, Alex Smith, Helix is home to them. That's my area.
Private or public?
Public school.
Helix is a public school?
Public school.
And it produced those athletes out of there?
Yeah. I was going to say, Dennis Hopper went there.
Really?
Yeah. I was going to say it was a wonderful environment to be around. I have friends that high quality, my joke was that, I was in the top 10% of my class, but barely. And all my other friends were like the valedictorians and the star quarterback and, water polo studs and swimming awesome guys and gals. And, I was fortunate enough to be, for lack of a better phrase, surrounded by greatness.
Well, if you look at the people you're still surrounded with in the paddling world.
Exactly.
Willie, ex-Olympic. Jimmy Terrell, you're wearing his hat, Quick Play Paddles, Olympic. You're wearing Johnny Puokea shirt, world class. Like, you're still surrounded by greatness.
Exactly. And, there's an old quote from Winston Churchill, which is, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are. So it's what I aspire to be. If I fall short, at least I'm,
aiming high.
Aiming high. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, you and I could probably have a quote off if there is such a thing of headspace related, high achieving, high performance, goal planning quotes of people that we both appreciate because we'll share books. If anybody has shared books or podcasts or Instagram feeds with that type of genre of information, it's you.
Oh,
I get lots of good stuff.
Exactly.
We go back and forth, which is pretty fun. So you play all these sports through high school or prior to high school?
No, so in high school I played soccer and I was on the tennis team.
Wow, so you played all sport.
Yeah, growing up, I lived on soccer fields. My mom played soccer. My mom was my coach. I was there from first game till last game. My dad played handball at the prison version of handball, not the Olympic
There's
version.
not a joke in here, is there?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
But my dad was third in the nation in 1977 for handball. I played on racquetball courts and tennis courts in the summer and racquetball in the winter.
So let me ask you, you played all these sports.
Yep.
Was this something your parents pushed? Was it something your parents reinforced and supported, or was this your passion?
Some of it was my passion. Some of it was reinforced. Nothing was ever really pushed on me, but it's sort of like I'm on a tennis court. because my mom and dad are playing doubles together, and you're sitting on a court for 3-4 hours.
Might as well get moving.
Yeah, and I learned to play with my right hand. I learned to play with my left hand. It was just like, okay, I'm here. I might as well. Racquetball. My dad was so good at racquetball. It wasn't probably until I'd been playing for like 5 or 6, maybe even more years before I ever scored a point on him.
Wow.
And I thought I was horrible until one year my sister and I went to a racquetball tournament for kids, and I started skunking people. I was 7 or 8, and I was like beating people 11-0. And I thought, like, okay, what's wrong with this? I can't score a point on my dad, and I'm beating these people, and they can't score a point on me. So, I mean, it was just little things like that. I mean, I was very passionate. I unfortunately had a horrible temper. So,
really?
Oh, my sister knew every button to push on me. And
well, they do that.
Yeah, well, that is true.
Brothers too.
So, we ended up being in the final, my sister and I, and she just like rode me like, I threw my racket. My parents pulled me off the court. They're like,
you were playing each other.
Yeah, for the championship.
For number 1 and number 2.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought maybe it was like, I was like, I didn't know there was 4 person.
No.
You're playing head to head with your sister.
Yeah, they do have doubles. But
your sister, younger or older?
My sister was older, 2 years older.
Got it.
And she knew what buttons to push, and I ended up throwing a racket, and my parents went, okay, you two are off the court.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Got it. Interesting. So let's go back to I really, like, it resonates with me thinking about you, or thinking about, like, very accomplished athletes. You said that, it took me 6 years to get a point off my dad, and then I went on and to skunk everybody else 11-0. That's leveling up, right? When you play with people better than you, you get better.
Yes.
Yeah, don't surround yourself with, don't feel good in a workout, surrounding yourself with people that you beat all day long. That's not where the growth comes from, right? So,
yeah, it's funny. A few years ago, I was up at the Gorge, and I was talking with Brian Muntz, known in the paddling.
Real quick, what's the Gorge and why is that important?
So the Gorge is up in Oregon, the Columbia River Gorge, and it has one of the best races, the downwind champs, and everybody from anywhere that is a paddler shows up.
It's a wind mecca. It's world class for downwind paddling, but it's also
world class for foiling, for windsurfing,
all of the above.
Yeah,
and it's beautiful in summer.
And it's just a comfortable vibe. And I happen to be up there, and one of the guys, Brian Muntz, who affectionately known as Irish in our paddling community, goes, I'd rather be the worst person in the best boat than the best person in a lesser boat. And I love that, because it's sort of like, I want to be the guy who's still working and thinks I have to keep working in order to keep my place.
Yeah. We'll talk more about paddling and the strategies and mindsets around it, because that's so on point with the way I think any elite athletes think, right?
I think so, yeah.
You think of the Kobe, you got to do the work, and you got to play with people that are better than you until you're the best. And then you got to keep working harder than everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so go on. So you played again, any other sports? I mean, were you like a professional badminton player too?
No.
Got it.
No, that was just at family reunion.
So this is junior high and into high school.
Mm-hmm.
What was growing up in San Diego, family, what was?
So shortly after I moved with my family there, my parents divorced, probably 82, 83. So we moved there in 81, and a couple of years later, my parents divorced. My dad moved up to Long Beach. There's a prison right there on the point called Terminal Island. Sounds really ominous, but it's a really nice prison. Mm-hmm. But John DeLorean was there. I stayed with my mom. My sister moved with my dad. My dad then moved back to Illinois. I stayed in San Diego. Did my high school there.
What high school?
I went to Helix.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, and then when I went to school, I made a really great choice to go to Santa Barbara, and Santa Barbara really just wasn't for me. So I ended up coming back to San Diego. I graduated from San Diego State in
What year?
93.
Oh, we were there. I was at USD at the same time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize we were at the same time. I'm a couple years older than you, but we're pretty close in school.
Yeah, that was why it was like when you were talking about getting together with a group of people, it was like, huh.
Yeah, small world.
Yeah.
That's where my prone paddling started way back in the day. Okay, so Santa Barbara was my number one choice, and I was not smart enough. So kudos to you for getting into Santa Barbara. I got lucky enough to make it into USD, and that was world class for me. And San Diego is still one of my favorite places. Where in San Diego do you live now?
So I live in Mira Mesa. So if you were to go down the coast, I was explaining this to someone today, Torrey Pines, going about 3 miles inland, and that's where Mira Mesa is.
Not too far from Claremont, right?
Correct.
Where I have a store, right?
Yes.
One of our Crown stores. Cool. And how far are you from where you grew up in La Mesa? How far is that?
20-minute drive.
Got it.
Maybe 10 miles.
Do you still hang with people from growing up?
I'm very fortunate. I have a phenomenal group of friends that I've known since I was 11. I'm 53, so do the math, 42 years.
Yeah.
We're still friends. We don't get together as much as we should, but I can call them up if I needed anything. They're all in and around the area. I have a friend up in Dixon where you also have a store.
That's right. He's the surgeon, is that right?
Yep, he's the surgeon.
Yeah. Again, we'll talk a lot. The paddle community is a great community, and there's a lot of camaraderie and all that. And I have a lot of friends from that world, but I'm blessed like you. I grew up pretty close to here. My wife and I both grew up on the other side of town, and a lot of my friends are friends that I've had since grade school, kindergarten. I mean, pretty unbelievable. Super fortunate that when you live in Southern California, a lot of people, we might go away for a while. Most of us don't stay away forever.
Exactly.
It's a nice place to come back to, especially if you're a paddler, right? So let's talk about, we'll get into paddling in a minute, but from college, what was your degree or focus in college?
So I graduated from San Diego State with a teaching credential. It's called Liberal Studies, emphasis in education. And I then did my student teaching in and around San Diego. And I worked for juvenile court and community schools. So I was a teaching assistant at the Joan Kroc St. Vincent de Paul Center, which is in downtown San Diego, 16th and Imperial. For those people that know that area, it's not the greatest of locations in the world, but I worked there for 5 years.
When did you know that you wanted to be a teacher? Because clearly you went through school with the focus on coming out as a educator.
Yeah, but right? I didn't. I started as a financial accounting major, and at Santa Barbara, and just realized, okay, this is moving numbers around. This isn't fun.
Yeah.
I worked this summer at the Joan Kroc St. Vincent de Paul Center, and I was an activities director, and it was like, this is fun. Cool. I enjoyed this. And so I changed my major. San Diego State started as a teaching college, and that's where my focus was.
Got it. So let's talk about it. So you've now been teaching professionally for how long?
I am in my 28th year as a teacher.
28th?
Yeah.
God, we are old.
I know.
How did this happen?
Well, and that doesn't include the 5 years that I was a teaching assistant. So, but 28 years, I love what I do.
What grades? What school?
So I've actually taught every single grade. So I started as a K-1 teacher. I moved to juvenile court and community schools, which was 7th through 12th grade. Self-contained classroom. Those are kids that are usually on probation or have had run-ins with the law or with difficulties in their home school. And then I moved down to what was called opportunities, which were kids in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in Carlsbad. I worked for Carlsbad Unified School District. And it was a specialized program to try and get those kids back on track so that they wouldn't get into a juvenile court and community school. When they killed that program, the funding from the state didn't allow for it to continue. I went to elementary education, which is where my degree is in. And I've been a 4th through 5th grade teacher since 2010, I think. And I currently am a 4th grade teacher in Carlsbad.
Awesome. Listen, I always say it. I've said it on here. I say it at work. I say it to my kids. You know, I believe wholeheartedly that when you're growing up, you will remember your best teacher and your worst teacher, best coach, worst coach, whatever. Everybody in the middle is kind of vanilla, and you're going to be formed by those images, those memories of those best and the worst. And for me, it's like, I want to do everything the 100% opposite of what that worst coach or teacher did. And I want to really emulate that best coach, teacher. Again, it could be boss, whatever. Everybody in the middle may just disappear. I can't even remember the names of those teachers, but I remember my best, and I remember my worst. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. And I know that you were supported publicly in this last year, that you're on this side.
Well, I was going to say,
Hold on.
Yeah.
What award did you receive? Was that this past school year? End of last year.
So for last year, the 22 school year, no, 23 school year, I was my school's teacher of the year. We have 14 teachers on our site. And so I was recognized as excellent.
Hallelujah, brother. Congratulations.
Well,
that's awesome.
I appreciate that, but while that is very nice, one of the things is that, I want, and I truly believe that anybody that's coming into my classroom will leave as a better student, better person, better ideals, better values, having been in my class. And it may not always be easy, but they will, in the long run, be a better person for having had me for 180 days.
I'll give you a second hallelujah for that. Dude, that's incredible. That's what we need. We need people like you leading our kids, educating our kids, driving our kids to be good people. That's awesome.
Well, and it's funny because I have a little saying that's a risk leads to more risks, which equals success, and all the letters mean,
I'm sorry, say that one again.
A risk leads to more risks, which leads to success, and A stands for attitude. Then you have respect, integrity, safety, kindness. Then you have the other risks are responsibility, individualism, sense of humor, appropriate, an attitude of keeping at it, and then self-esteem. And those are all the things that equal success. So each of those letters to me is more important than me teaching you math, science, English, social studies, because realistically, the goal is to create a better person, not someone who can memorize their math facts. Although we do teach math facts because there's discipline and other ideas with regards to that. But, I want them to be a better person, because if you can do all those things that I just listed, you're gonna be a successful student, but you'll also be a successful person. If I only teach you the academics, then you may or may not be a better person.
I wonder how many hallelujahs I can give in one podcast without it becoming obnoxious. But no, I mean, honest to goodness, way, that is exactly what we hope. I've got Reef, my youngest, is in 6th grade, and all we want him to do is enjoy and appreciate his learning at school and be a good kid. The learning will come from that.
Yeah. Well, and that from your older kids, because what you've helped them understand is by being a good person, the academics come easy. And once you have age and wisdom with that, someone said to me, it was like, okay, once you're 25, you'll figure out, hey, if you had just done the stuff your parents had wanted you to do, life would have been so much easier.
Can you go home with me right now and talk to Reef, because he's at the point, 12 years old, 6th grade, where everything is no.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, everything is friggin' no, and everything is a debate. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to win this one. Just go friggin' wash your hair. Go.
Yeah.
Like, no more debating this. No, we all need, and again, let me just say that the teaching profession is one of the hardest, probably harder now than ever, based on just the nature of our world or our country. It's undervalued, underpaid, and maybe underappreciated. So I just want you to, from me and probably from everybody else, thank you for what you do, especially for somebody that's been doing it for 28 years plus the 5 and cares and has the whole risk leads to more risk, leads to success. Is that something that you developed, or is that something that's you?
Yeah, I developed that back in when I was up in. So I lived and worked in Northern California for a while and helped start one of their schools up there, and that was what the ethos that our school had. Got it. And I helped create that.
That's really cool. And where up there were you? Where in Northern California?
So I was up in Santa Rosa. So Sonoma County, 60 miles north of the gate, as they always say. It was a great spot for me. I got my admin credential, so I have an administrative services credential, which allows me to be an assistant principal or principal.
Do you have any desire to be that?
I tried that. It is not for me.
Got it.
I like dealing with kids on a day-to-day basis and affecting change a little bit better that way.
Gotcha. Well, kudos, man, and thank you. It's super commendable, very much appreciated. We should have many, many, many more people with the passion for teaching like you. Very cool.
Hope so.
So during this time, going back to your childhood, we're into career, but I know there's a big figure in there, a couple figures, your mom and your sister.
Well, so before my mom or my sister was my grandfather. So my middle name is Theron. His first name was Theron, so I'm named after him. He was, quote unquote, the hero in my world growing up. My dad was a football star, first freshman in Atlanta public schools to play on the varsity football team. Was a phenomenal athlete, but he was never my quote unquote hero. That was my grandfather. And just how he conducted his life, and I didn't realize until I learned later in life, what I saw was the evolution of him. He was a philanderer. He cheated on my grandmother. He was alcoholic and drunk. And
but you didn't see any of that at that time.
In fact,
because if that's why he's your hero, we have a problem.
No. So I never knew that about him. My mom wrote a story. My mom used to write flash fiction, 500-word essays about her life, and I never knew this until I was probably 10 years ago. So in my 40s, I never knew this about him. He was always.
What was it about him that made him your hero?
Integrity. And I say all those other things, right? and was that I only saw him as someone who had the utmost high integrity. Deacon in the church, would spend time talking to me. He'd watch golf on Sunday afternoon, talking to me about Jack Nicholson, Lee Trevino, Gary Player, all that.
He spent a lot of time with you.
Yeah. And he was very honest, very straightforward, very, like I said, he had high integrity.
Sounds like he had multiple personalities. Multiple
again, evolutions.
Well, let's do this.
Let's say this. Yeah. I want to be a better person than I was at 25, at 55. I want to have more on the ball, more caring, more kindness, more all those things. If we stay where we are at 25 and we never evolve, then we really haven't done a lot of growth.
For sure. So
that whole idea of growth and change, I would like to think that I got the best of him instead of maybe seeing the worst.
Yeah. So, but the reason he was such an inspiration to you, or was your role model, was because what you saw was this high integrity, involved with, spent time, and sounds like real quality time with you.
We woke up, so he's always the reason I say I wake up early, because he'd wake up at 5 o'clock, he'd go out, watch the sunset, smoke his unfiltered Camels, I would sit next to him. And
Sunrise and a smoke. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And a coffee, sunrise.
It's like a Marlboro man.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, and whenever we were visiting him, I had my own little lawn chair. I'd sit out next to him. I'd secondhand smoke, and
that's where you got your coffee addiction.
No, I didn't drink coffee at the time, but because I was way too young, 5 and 6. I think at 8.
So, but what keep us going through there? So he left a mark on you.
Yeah.
Your dad. So, but keep going. So there was also your mother. Like,
yeah.
Walk us through your family.
So he was that person. He died. I remember we were in Leavenworth. So 8 or 9 was when he died, and that was crushing to me. And then it wasn't until probably after college, my mom was there. My mom stood by me. My sister, up until that, growing up, my sister was always the better athlete. My sister was the smarter kid.
She was also the one that could push your buttons.
Yeah, and I would follow behind her, and the good and bad of having teachers go, "Oh, you're Wendy's brother." Yes, I'm Wendy's brother, because then the expectation was there, and so, for a while she was my hero. I wanted to be everything that she was because, like I said, she was smart. She was a wonderful athlete. She made friends easily, and I wanted to emulate that.
Did you?
I don't think I did.
Got it.
I think I always struggled whenever we moved. I struggled to make friends. Luckily, I was good at sports, so I always had people around me because I played team sports. But my sister had her demons. My sister had a personality disorder. She was borderline. So if you think of people that are manic, depressive, so they either have really good or really bad. My sister was slightly different than that because everything was either all or none, and it was extreme all or extreme none. So my sister started suicide attempts when she was 11, and at the age of 37, succeeded. And that's weird to say that in that manner, but there are legitimate suicide attempts, legitimate things. My sister was a cutter, and all those things. And it never diminished who my sister was in my eyes, but it was also like I didn't want to go down that road. My mom was always that person that made sure. Frankly, I was more afraid of my mom than anybody else in the world. I mean, I slammed a door. I hadn't done dishes and had slammed a door, and my mom had yelled at me, "Get back in the house," with a curse word in there, right now. And I said no, and she started following me. I started running down our road, and I'm sitting here thinking, I've played soccer. I was like 15, 16 at the time. I played soccer since
she
I was...
caught you?
No. Oh. No, she could never have caught me. And that was my thought, was it's like, okay, I can run forever. You're never going to catch me. And she yells at me and she goes, "Wade, you might be faster than me, but I'm going to be there when you stop." But having someone in your... I look back on this now and go, having someone in your corner that really is going to be there when you do the stupidest of things and loves you regardless. Yeah. I flipped my car when I was 18 after having an argument with my mom, walked away from it, and my mom just, hugged me and went, "Well, guess you're not going to have a car for a while. You're probably not going to get a lot for that car either." I got $50 for it, but it's like my mom was always in my corner, and she would always say, "I love you no matter what." That bond is never going to break. But you have to, when I make mistakes, you have to do better. And that she was so skilled at this. And I didn't realize this until, like I said, I'm 53. I've seen parents, I've seen people. It's like, I was very fortunate. My mom was an incredible person. And like I said, around 25, I realized that. Oh, I was the person that created all the havoc. Oh, that was me.
I was that kid too. Don't fret. You were not alone.
Yeah, but I mean, to be able to put words to that. And, my sister, her influence on me was that I didn't want to go down the road that she was going down. And yes, when she was on, there was nobody bigger and brighter.
But you had both sides of it.
Yeah.
It was supposed to have been really tough. And then she passed at 37.
Yeah.
And then, not to like gloss over, that must have been tough. But I also know, I want to get to your mom because I mean, I'd heard a little bit about the Wendy story, but your mom is someone that you already talked a lot about her, but you were super close when she passed. You want to give a little?
Yeah. So in 2013, my mom was going in for a hernia surgery. She had torn the right side of her body doing Bikram yoga. So my mom would go and do these 90-minute Bikram yoga classes, hot yoga. She'd sometimes do 2 in a day, things like that. She was in her 60s. And they did the little pre-scan on her and they went, hey, we got a problem. She got called back in the next day. The doctor goes, you have a tumor on your kidney, on your left side. That's the reason why you have a hernia on your right side. The tumor was about a 32-pound tumor.
Hold on.
Yeah.
32 pounds.
Yeah, I literally, so the doctor took photos of it. I have it on my phone only because people don't ever believe.
It's hard to fathom.
But it pushed everything from her left side over to her right side, which is why she had the hernia on the right side. So what they had to do the following Monday, they went in, they did I don't remember the name of it, but they basically killed her left kidney and removed it. Then they had to remove the tumor that was on it. And so my mom had from right under her rib cage on the right side, all the way over on the left side, all the way over to her right side. They folded that out.
Yikes.
Removed the tumor. And so, here it is. We're going with my mom being in
world-class shape.
Yeah, to immediately, hey, you have, just because of the sheer size of the tumor, it was encapsulated, but you have a stage 3 cancer. 5-6 weeks after that, my mom was walking 2 miles. I'd meet her every day after work. We'd walk where she lived. There was a mile loop. We'd walk it a couple times until she was done, and we'd go back in, and and that was 2013. She lived till 2016. She died 12 days after her 71st birthday, and all that time, my mom had it ended up being 3 surgeries around her lungs and kidney. And the last surgery, so her 4th surgery was, she had split her femur, but the tumors had split the femur. So she had it in her
So she had cancer in her bone. Okay,
yeah.
That's what ended up.
And so she was walking around on a broken femur for 6 weeks.
Well, now I know where you get your toughness from.
Well, it was one of those things where I didn't realize, maybe because I didn't want to realize, but like in her left lung, and she had radiation for this, but her left lung was pretty much an entire tumor. She had 15 to 18 golf ball sized tumors in her right lung. And we were so focused on the femur
Yeah.
and getting that replaced, putting a rod down in there and
They
all
missed
this.
that or whatever.
Well, no, they didn't miss it.
They just prioritized.
Exactly.
Got it.
And again, what I know now about cancer versus what I knew then, it's sort of like, I'm glad I didn't know, but I'm also, it's sort of like, it's sad almost to say that I have this wonderful skill set. I know what cancer is and looks like, and I'm so empathetic for anybody that is having to go through radiations and chemotherapies and all of those, because the toll that it takes on that person, and to see the grace that my mom went through, that's really what I take away from it. And it's hard to say that because at the time, you know, that wasn't my mom. That my mom was invincible. And to sort of admit, like, now, she wasn't. But she never looked at it that way. She still did things. I mean, she showed up. Someone had a birthday cake for her, like I said, and she shows up not wanting to go there, not feeling the greatest, but she wanted them to be okay.
Yeah.
And that was my mom.
You know, it's really, if I can interrupt, you've told me a lot about her, and there's a couple things we'll jump in, but it's really amazing because I've had some of those experiences, and I had Jack, I don't know if you know Jack Shimko with We Are Ocean. You know, he's taking people, in this case with people like your mom that were battling it, and they're going out and doing adventures. They're getting out of the hospitals. They're getting over to Catalina. That's, I think, the route, and I didn't talk about it, but like Ocean of Hope, which supported the Sarcoma Alliance, which I ran for a long time, and Amy Spector went on to run, and you know,
I was
very
a part
of for a long time. Those people, that was to support folks fighting sarcoma, which is a very aggressive kind of cancer. And the woman that was the genesis of the Sarcoma Alliance, my friend Susie Leiter and Keith Minimitsu, who started Ocean of Hope. Susie was a nurse. She was battling sarcoma, which at the time in the early 2000s there was very little information about it. But when she was dying, and she died in 2002, when she was dying, I went to see her, and she goes, and she was 2 years older than me. She goes, I'm like, how are you? She's like, no, how are you? She turned the tables, and I'll never forget it. It was the first time, like, it was all about everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
You said it with such grace, and it was not just inspiring and powerful, but it just taught me so much about, I guess, the human spirit and class and, again, grace. But it was staggering to watch her shift. She did it for everybody.
Yeah.
It wasn't about her anymore. It was about everybody else.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can you? So it sounds like mom did the same thing. Now, you celebrated mom in a couple different ways after she passed. How did you celebrate her? So
my mom passed in 2016, and I had started in 2015, the day after the Catalina Classic. I sent a message to Amy Spector and said, I want to be part of this. I'm paddling the Classic next year. I want to do it for my mom. And so that was the first goal.
So hold on. So let's back up. 2015, mom is still fighting.
Correct. So
you heard about the Catalina Classic prone race.
So
is that right?
So actually, when I started outrigger paddling, it was
year?
2011 was my novice year.
Okay, we're going to start pivoting.
Yeah.
We're going to finish up the mom story, but we're going to pivot in because this is where paddle comes into play.
So Lanakila had a boat that was branded Ocean of Hope. And I loved, honestly, the logo, O2H. And it was like, what's this about? Mm-hmm. So I had known about it. So back in 2002, when I moved back from Northern California, I actually had a prone paddleboard. I was the only surfer I knew that had a prone paddleboard, and unbeknownst to me, the Mike Eaton crew out of Mission Bay and the North County paddlers with Brian Szymanski up in Carlsbad, I had no idea they existed. I was in La Jolla. And so I'd go and paddle the buoys, and all the lifeguards thought I was cool, but that was about it. And nobody else did it. And I got bored, so I sold it in 2005. And so I knew of the classic. I knew of Jamie Mitchell. And, you know, it was something I followed. And so when I had this opportunity, and so I had paid attention in 2011, 2012, 2013, when a good friend of Quickblade, Suzanne Yo, had cancer and breast cancer, and they were raising funds for her and everything like that. I knew her very well. And so I had paid attention, and then my mom was diagnosed in 2013. 2016 or 2015 comes along, and I'm like, I think I'm going to do this, Mom. I'm going to do this for you. At the time, she was quote unquote cancer free. And so I said, we're going to do this, and I want you to be there at the finish line. And so we ended up concocting this idea. And I contacted Amy and said, I'm doing this. And she said, you got our support? Cool. And it was later in 2015, my mom had to go through radiation to try and take down the tumor in her lung. She started chemotherapy a little bit after that in early 2016. And all this stuff, and she passed in April. The classic is not in April. So I had to, you know, and this was early mornings, get up before work, go paddle, do this, do that. And it was like, okay, I'm doing this for my mom. And I've said this to a couple of people. There's no good reason I should have completed the Catalina Classic. I look back and I go, gosh, you're a stubborn ass, aren't you? Because I wouldn't, my joke to people was, you're going to have to kill me in order to have me not do it and complete it. And I guess I was just dumb and stubborn. I finished it. I got in the photo.
Hold on, but let me ask, why? So for context, Catalina Classic,
32 miles across the channel from Catalina to Manhattan Beach.
And you're paddling this on a prone board, which is paddling like a surfboard or on your knees. Of all the channel crossing craft, is the hardest. And you did it stock, if I recall, which is a 12-foot board, which makes it even harder. I was always unlimited.
You were smart.
Different people would say you're either dumb or dumber.
Yes, right? Exactly. I fall into the dumber category.
So we're all there. Well, I've done it a lot of times, which makes me dumb times 11. So let me ask you this: Why do you look at it as being dumb and stubborn as opposed to driven and motivated to do it for your mom or in the memory of your mom or to celebrate your mom?
Well, it was driven. It was that, but all those things. And it's like, okay, I'm really coming off the couch, doing this in a year of training. Realistically, a year of training. That was it. But
that's plenty.
I
for a good athlete.
Right. And I get that. But it's also one of those things where it's like, gosh, I look at it now and I go, gosh, I don't know that I could do that now.
Of course you could.
I probably could.
Of course you could.
I probably could, but I don't. I look at that and
you're
go,
still dumb and stubborn.
Exactly. I'm just older.
Yeah. So how did it feel when you finished that one? Mom wasn't able to be there, but you did it in her honor. And whether you did it to celebrate it or because you were dumb or ornery, it was.
No, I was going to say it was a total celebration for my mom, but it was the relief that I should have felt was tempered by the sort of sadness of the fact that I did not get to celebrate it with her. I got to celebrate it with my wife, Amy, but I didn't get to celebrate it with my mom. And that was sort of hard. I went home and, when you complete the Catalina Classic, you get what they call a toothpick. You get the prone board. I don't have that displayed anywhere. It's sitting in my mom's box of ashes. Sorry. I wrote her a letter. I don't remember if it was like, it was a week or two after I wrote my mom a letter. I have no idea what I wrote her. It's in the box. And that was sort of like, I'm closing the chapter on that. I still have the board. I still use it. Ocean Hope is great. They give you little celebratory stickers. I have that. And but I've never opened the box since 2016. The toothpick is in there. The letter's in there.
That's cool.
And then the following year was the following year was the idea of, I am going to spend my mom's birthday with my mom. My thoughts and my mom. And so what I ended up doing was, a couple weeks before what would have been her 72nd birthday, I concocted the idea that, okay, 24 times 3 is 72. That's my mom's age. I am going to paddle 3 miles every hour. Whatever rest I get is however fast I end up paddling the 3 miles. And I'm going to spend my mom's birthday, April 14th, till the next morning at the same time, which was April 15th. I'm going to paddle 3 miles every hour on the hour. And I went down to Mission Bay, and I think I started at 7 a.m. It might have been 6 a.m., and I did that. And so for 24 hours, I paddled prone, I paddled stand-up, I paddled outrigger. And it was, here's what I'm going to do to honor my mom. I get to sit with my mom. I get to celebrate her. I get to have conversations with her. I get to spend all the time I need to with my mom. And I did that. And that was, again, one of those things where it's like, okay, you're sort of stubborn, aren't you?
No, you're kind of awesome.
Well, it was...
Hold on. Just so this, again, if you do lots of long distance stuff, you can talk about these things and go, oh, was it smart or whatever. Other people go, hold on. You did what? You did 72 miles in 24 hours.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how you break it up, 3 miles every hour. You did 72 miles of paddling.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Well, and so here's the funny part. The funny part of that whole thing is that's how you and I got to meet. Because we both showed up at the gorge up in Columbia, the Columbia River Gorge in 2016 to paddle the downwind champs. And we're sitting there, and Kristen Thomas, who was also an Ocean of Hope ambassador, she got everybody together for a picture, and you're there, and she's introducing, and you looked at me and you went, "You're the guy. You're the guy." And
I didn't remember that that's where we met.
Yeah, well, and you're wearing a Monster and Sea shirt.
I like to think of it as the Mark Shoeline Passion Project shirt.
There you go. But I will point out that was sort of the little stick in your craw, if you will, that you had paddled 61 miles during the Monster and Sea 24. That was on April 15th to April 16th. And you were sort of...
that you got me by 10 or 11?
Miffed is a great word.
Okay, so we jumped ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked a fair bit about paddling. We'll get more into like why paddling and different craft, but we're right into it. Let's keep going. So there's Ocean of Hope.
Yeah.
There is the Monster and Sea, the 24. Talk about the 24, because that was another super cool thing that you and I were both very involved in different areas.
Correct.
Both, I think I did it 3 years. I think you did it 2. You did it 2.
I realistically, I tried to talk Troy Nebeker.
Troy. Thank you, Troy, for allowing me to use this, which I did reach out to him. And he was just up at Maverick taking photos on this bomb swell. So
nice.
Troy is going to be in this chair. I can't wait.
Awesome. He is
such a great guy.
one of my favorite people in the world.
Yep.
But I had known of him from a friend I sold a board to, who's a Canadian, and Matthew Abbott had come down, and he was coming down for one of the Battle of the Paddles. He brought me a Monster and Sea shirt and said, "Hey, I know this guy in the area who's doing this. Here's a gift." So I looked up who Troy was, and I had followed his first 24, his second 24. The third 24 was your first one, and I didn't do it because I was doing my mom's paddle. And I said, "Hey, Troy, is it okay if I do it as a Monster and Sea paddle, even though I'm going from Friday to Saturday instead of from Saturday to Sunday?" And he's like, "Hey, you know, the whole idea is community. We need to all be on the water together. Maybe look at next year if you're..." And I was like, "All right, cool." So I did it the next year, and then the following year. And then the third year that we were going to end up, the third year that I was going to do it, it would have been your fourth year, was the COVID year.
Yep.
And it all got canceled.
And that's just such a cool thing. So what Troy put together, Monster and Sea, Monster being cancer.
Yes.
I believe it was his wife that was
Correct.
fighting cancer at the time, and he started this up in the Pacific Northwest. Year 1, they had 1 team. Year 2, they had like 15 teams. Year 3, they had 30, and it kept on going.
Yeah.
And my third year, we ended up taking it to Kauai, and we did a team Kauai.
Yeah.
Monster and Sea. We did that in Honolulu, which was amazing. But Chris Hammond, who I grew up with here and
Yes.
lives in San Diego, retired firefighter, retired lifeguard, he started it. He was a follower. He was stand-up. And so he got in year 2, and I think I went out and did a couple pieces with them. And then 3 and 4, I did it in total. But what it is it's a team of 6 people. There's always 2 people two people of the team on the water at every time.
Correct.
For an hour, and you're doing 24 hours of paddling.
And then the first hour
And
at midnight, and then the last hour, everybody is
together
on the water. Yeah.
And it's just super cool. A lot of camaraderie, a lot of good fundraising. And then the money raised, you would give, truly, talk about grassroots, $1,000 in cash in envelopes
Directly
to people fighting cancer in our community.
Yeah.
And we got the opportunity to give. I got chicken skin right now. We were able to give to a number of families that we knew well, go over and give them cash. I mean, here they are, people that are in the deep of it, and you're giving them $1,000. And there's a woman, one of the women we gave it to was a mom of a friend. She has unfortunately passed since then. Another was a young woman that worked in a derm office with Randy, my wife, and we still see her, and she is beautiful and healthy and so grateful. And it's just this super powerful, it's so grassroots. I mean, it's all cash. Like,
right.
IRS doesn't get involved in this one, but it was just this really incredible. So it's not only like this is a big part of where you and I are very aligned. Yeah. It's this passion for doing good on the water, oftentimes through big, taxing, radical events.
Well,
right?
And the funny part, so in 2012, I raised money for the Pat Tillman Foundation. Pat Tillman was always someone that I looked up to and admired. Again, his evolution as
he was
a person.
NFL, went off in the military, and was killed in the line of duty.
By friendly fire. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That part.
And so his wife created a Pat Tillman Foundation, and they gave money to military to pursue scholarships, either in and out of the military, just betterment for wherever they wanted to go. And I raised money for them in 2012. In 2013, that was where Suzanne Yao, I raised money directly for her and gave money directly there. So it was the idea that, hey, what can you do that directly affects people around you? And that was what was so cool about Monster and Sea. I mean, you talk about giving, like, literally you'd write something and you'd sign it as Monster and Sea. I didn't include a return address or anything like that. I remember I had gotten, and it might have been from Chris, I got the name of a firefighter in San Diego, and he was going through cancer at the time, and his girlfriend answered the door. I said, hey, and she's like, oh, he's resting. Could you come back later? I said, I don't need to. I have this for him. I handed her the envelope. She said, okay, I'll make sure he gets it. He had no idea. He literally tracked us down to say thank you. That's so neat. And it was just, I mean, the people I met through that community, I'm still friends with.
Yeah. I mean, what's really cool, and you've been, and I think we know the why now, and you can see the why between your mom and then these other experiences, other people. But there's so many of these organizations. I mean, the very first fundraising Catalina crossing, I think, was Mike Rogers, local Mike, good friend of mine here who did Paddle for the Cure back in the 80s. And then Susie and Keith with Ocean of Hope.
Yep.
And then it started building from there. And now we've got things like the Ben Carlson Foundation and the Ben Did Go, and we've got the Open Water Crossing. There's so many fundraising approaches that utilize the channel. Talk about paddling this channel. Why is it so cool, powerful, hard? Like, what is it? Because you've done it a lot.
So one of the things, and I said this, Gage Henley did a video.
Who's Gage Henley? Who's that?
He's a surfer, paddler, but he's also a filmmaker. He did a film for Ocean of Hope. And it's a short little documentary film about what Ocean of Hope was doing. And I said this there, it's like crossing a channel, it's a little bit selfish. I'm doing something where I get to do my passion for, however long it takes me to get across, 3 hours on a good day, 12 hours on a bad day, depending upon what craft you're paddling. And I get to do that, and I get to do the thing that fills my cup, if you will. But I get to do it, and then I get to give back. So I get to do something that's special for myself while doing something special for everyone else. And that's sort of the idea, is that, a channel, yeah, you can see the land, but you're going from point to point. It's a big deal. Something major happens,
you're just a speck.
Exactly.
We all talk about it. Like, you're out here, you can see it on a nice clear day, you can see the island, but when you're out there,
oh yeah,
you're a speck.
Well, and as you know from the classic, you're in a shipping lane with big ships that could care less that you're there. And they're not stopping, even if they could.
Yeah, we can go into a long array of things that can happen out there.
Yeah.
Most people's first reaction is maybe, oh, that's really long, 32 miles. The other one is, there's a lot of sharks out there. I mean, most people's first comment really is like, aren't you afraid of the sharks? I'm like, when you're paddling for 6, 7, 8 hours, like, you're not, like, sometimes you want the shark to come and finish you off, right? Put me
out of my misery.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I mean, what you just said about the why and the how, as far as how we get other people to be involved, we get to give back through this thing. That was kind of my pitch when I first took over Ocean of Hope in 2002, when Keith stepped down, when Susie passed. Was here I was like one guy, and I was like, hey, we're all paddling, we're all doing this for our own reasons, and we're all going to do the channel. Let's do it for others that can't. And it's a pretty powerful message, and it's nice to be able to do something that is somewhat, I don't like using the word selfish, it just takes a giant commitment to do it, and it's nice to be able to do it for something bigger than ourselves.
Well, and the other part is that people always talk about, you go to a dark place at times when you're doing these long distance things. It's nice to be able to, okay, this is nowhere close to dark.
Yeah.
And
go fight cancer.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch a loved one fight cancer.
Exactly. Right? Hug your mom as she takes her last breath.
Yeah.
I mean, that's dark. This, I got it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it hurts. It's painful. But guess what?
Yeah.
I'm going to walk tomorrow. I'm going to go eat dinner. I'm going to go sleep in a nice, warm, cozy bed.
Yeah, I'm good.
Right? Yeah,
it's
I got
a
this.
different animal.
Yeah, exactly.
A whole different animal. Yeah, thanks for sharing about that. Listen, there are so many good examples of fun maybe not the perfect term for it, but like good things we've been able to do. So many good organizations raising money, using the channel, using races. We talked about the Catalina channel. We're going to go into like pure paddle talk right now. Is that cool?
Perfect.
And you're a happy place.
I'll go anywhere you want.
Okay. So favorite place to paddle?
Honestly, Davenport downwinder up in Santa Cruz.
Really?
Best downwinder.
Never done it.
Oh my gosh.
It's cold.
It's cold.
Yeah, that's why I haven't done it.
It's cold and has big fish with very sharp teeth. And yes, I did hoolie, and but hoolie flipped my canoe upside down.
You went swimming.
Oh yes, and then I immediately got back up and flipped it again and went, okay, the water's 53. They're big fish. I better get this right. So I got Davenport on arguably maybe the best type of day. 30 to 35 mile an hour winds right down the coast, 12 to 15 foot seas. I'm hitting 12 miles an hour easy.
That's so fun.
And just flying.
Yeah. We should clarify, because growing up in Newport,
Yes.
the wind is the enemy because we all grew up surfing.
Correct.
When you get it, and that's the missing link that a lot of people don't understand. When you live in a place that blows all the time, you got to be able to take advantage of the wind, and that's where downwind paddling shines. And we get to go do really cool stuff, which is, it isn't surfing, but you're riding bumps, you're riding waves the whole stinking way. So Davenport, Moliko on Maui, Molokai, the Gorge are all just these world-class destinations to go fast downwind.
And Davenport is 13, so it's a 14-mile downwind. 13 of it is along the coast, and it was blowing straight down. The last mile is basically from steamers into and around the pier into Santa Cruz, which is pretty flat.
They had some big surf up there last week.
Very much so. But, I mean, that was a great experience. Where I love going is the Columbia River Gorge. Hood River, if they didn't have winters, it would be the perfect place.
Yeah. And a lot of people we know from the paddling world are moving up there because it's beautiful, it's action sports all year round, et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk more about the Gorge because we actually roomed up there this past summer. Let me ask you this about paddling. I mean, that's just a fun one. I was just curious. But you've got the Puake shirt on. You've got the quick blade hat on. You're an ambassador in outrigger. I mean, I think you're technically an ambassador for
I'm an ambassador for both. Yeah.
For both. Why? And how? Because I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of paddling, a lot of places. You know everyone. And you know, let me step back for a second. Yeah. If there is a person, and this I think reflects your personality and your passion for the sport, but anytime that someone up here goes, hey, I'm trying to figure out which boat to paddle, which paddle do I want to use, I'm like, stop. I'm going to give you Wade's phone number. Because anybody can ask you anything, and you're not only will you answer, you love to answer, you love to engage, and you'll come down and like you didn't come up to paddle 2 weekends ago because you wanted to go, you went and met with somebody and let them try some different paddles out. Your paddle collection could probably your quick blade paddle collection could probably fill this studio. Talk about, a lot of people paddle, and a lot of people paddle a lot. You're like, you seem to love the community, the act of the nuance of it,
it's the enthusiasm, and I'm enthusiastic. I mean, I think that is really what it boils down to, is that I was very fortunate when I first started. So I was a prone paddler, as I said, 2002 to 2005. I sold the board. I got back into stand-up in 2010. Someone I worked with, her husband did it. He took me out a few times. I am a talker. In case you didn't know that, I'm a talker.
If anybody wants to be super annoyed, they can come paddle with us when we go long. Like if we go on a 20 miler, we're talking the whole time. Other people that paddle with me know they have to be willing to be talked at. Yeah. You can give and take as well as anybody.
Probably.
You probably give better than you take on that, right?
But
you might out-talk me.
So I'm a talker, and of all places, Park City, Utah, on a cross-country ski trail, I happened to be with my mom, where we had come to a trailhead. This couple skis up, And the guy goes, God, I love this. I love being outdoors. This is the greatest sport. And I said, hey, if you really like this, you should try stand-up paddleboarding. He looks at me and he goes, what? What'd you just say? I go, you should try stand-up paddleboarding. It's really great. It's out in the water. He goes, no. You don't have to sell me on it. He goes, I paddle the elite races. My wife's a professional. It was Bob and Betsy Reisner. And he goes, yeah, I got it. My mom and I go finish our cross-country ski. They happen to be back. They were at where we were turning in our equipment. And Betsy invites me. She goes, hey, do you stand up paddle? And I go, yeah. She goes, how would you like to come paddle with me later in the week? I go, awesome. So we exchanged numbers. It's February in Park City, Utah, with snow all the way around. She has a pond that she has talked herself on to be able to use so she can paddle
Year round.
Sure. Because it's one of the places that they use for snow making. So it has to be heated and broken through. So she had talked to the resort.
That's very fun.
I show up on Thursday. She goes, hey, if you like stand-up paddleboarding, Danny says you should try outrigger. Oh, okay. Danny? Danny Ching. Oh, okay. I had no idea who Danny was at the time.
You weren't paddling outrigger at the time?
I was only paddling stand-up.
2011, is that what you said?
2011. I knew of, Chuck Patterson, E.J. Johnson.
Yeah.
I knew Jamie did prone.
Got it. But you were only doing stand-up at the time?
I was only doing stand-up at the time. And so I mentioned, I come back to work. I have a conversation with someone I work with. And they were like, hey, she runs into her office, prints me out a flyer for Oceanside Outrigger and says, my husband paddles. Go show up. I look at the date. I go, can't. I'm doing something that she goes, show up the next weekend. I'm telling him you're coming. So that's how I got into it.
Got it.
And, once I got back to the hotel after talking with Betsy, I looked up who Danny Ching is and he had just won Molokai. Oh.
Danny's one of the premier paddlers. He's based out of South Bay. He's just an absolute stud.
Yes. And it was like, okay, he might know something.
Yeah.
So
got it. But now, jump ahead.
Yeah.
You're friends with, you could walk up just about, like when we're up at the gorge, when you have world-class paddlers from all over the world, you know most of them. How? How come?
I
like to talk?
I stalk people on Strava. It's funny. I'm a talker, so I will talk to people. I'm very fortunate that I'm passionate about what I am talking about, and I know.
And you're probably not a threat to most of those people.
Exactly. Well, but it's like. It's like going in this morning to the Willie workout. There are guys there that, I can hang with for a bit.
Yeah.
On a race, yeah. They're gonna crush me.
Yeah.
On a workout,
yeah. But you can go have a coffee with them afterward because they're all friends of ours and
exactly.
People I mean, that's the beauty of these communities. I mean, it's like the paddling, like so many sport communities. On the water during a race, it might be competitive. As soon as you're off the water, everybody's super close. Everybody hangs, super great.
And everybody will offer their advice and insight and, hey, have you thought about this? Try this. It's why I'm fortunate. For lack of a better phrase, I'm a data geek. I love technical stuff. I'll learn about different canoes, different paddles. I've been fortunate enough that, Jimmy or Johnny, Jimmy Terrell or Johnny Puakea will have that conversation. We'll go, here's what I was trying to do with this paddle, or here's what I'm doing with this canoe. And I soak it up like a sponge.
Yeah.
It's like, I love that.
Yeah. And you love to share it, and you're really good at it. You're very good at talking people through it. So
I'm a teacher.
Yeah, you're a teacher. Yep. And a passionate paddle nerd. So all those things together work out really well because, again, I refer people to you all the time, and you're always gracious enough to take people on the water, let them try this. You'll talk through anything, which is really, really cool. I just called you a passionate paddle nerd.
Yep.
You're also a passionate podcast nerd, as am I, and I mentioned that at the beginning.
Yeah.
And again, that's why it's fun that we're both here. We're going to pivot. It's all related to paddling.
Yeah.
However, I think it's more related to what we talked about elite life or elite lifestyle or constant growth and improvement, or why are you very focused on things like, or maybe talk about some of the people or books that you've sent my way or we've digested together, whether it be Goggins, Rich Roll. There's so many things that we have, I think, similar interests in
Well,
this
a lot
world.
of it is you don't want to be stagnant, or I don't want to be stagnant. I want to continually grow, continually improve, continually to be better. David Goggins was someone who I didn't know of when I read
Living with a Seal.
Jesse Itzler to me was the lyrical Jesse James with Shake It Like a White Girl. And so that was what I knew him as. I didn't know him as the mogul who did Marquise Jet, whose wife created and just recently sold Spanx, all that stuff. So when I read his book, I didn't know who this guy was. It was just like he was SEAL. And later in life, it's like you get to that and it's like, oh, okay. And then you read Can't Hurt Me, and he has a recent book, Never Finished. And it's like, wow, what he's gone through and what he's doing, how to take yourself to that next level. Same thing with Jesse Itzler. He has this big ass calendar.
I have one, and thank you very much. Thank you for sending that to me.
I was going to say, where he talks about plan your year with what are your things, put those on the calendar first, then figure out everything else. Have a misogi, a big idea for the year, which I will tell you in just a second.
Hallelujah.
Because I was just sharing before you had gotten here that I want to do a 100-mile paddle. I already have it mapped out. It's Long Beach to Newport, Newport to Dana to Oceanside, Oceanside to Mission Bay.
Over what period of time?
24 hours.
Well, Jack Bark and his boys did that
Exactly
on prone, so you've got them beat by
exactly
in an outrigger. But
exactly.
That's a biggie.
No, but it is, but it isn't, because
no, it is, but it is.
No,
but this is the beauty of a brain like yours to be able to go, I can do a 100-miler.
Well,
I got it. Why not?
So here's, if you look at it, you go, okay, I can do 5 miles an hour in my sleep. So if 24 times 5, you're yes. easily there.
Listen, you know what I did on New Year's Day just a few days ago,
Yes,
right?
I do.
So I did a 100-mile bike ride. I hadn't done a century in 15 or so years.
You hadn't been on a gravel bike.
That was my first day on my gravel bike. I had done around the neighborhood with Reef
gotcha.
the day before, but that was my first day on that bike, first day in clips. But listen, I love, and Danny Nichols was sitting here, Project Open Water, and he brought up misogi, or misogi, however you pronounce it. And I love the definition. I'm going to say it again, and it's been said on here, but do you know the formal definition?
I don't.
So it's a little bit cooler than just a big wild ass goal.
Okay.
There's 2 rules. Rule number 1, you have a 50% chance of accomplishing it and a 50% chance of not.
Okay.
So it's a big ass goal.
Yeah.
You may not accomplish it. That's rule number 1. It has to be that big. Rule number 2, you can't die.
I like that.
It's a big push. So in thinking about, like, when I get a little niggle in my head and go, I'm going to do a 100-miler. It got in my head a couple weeks before, or a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Why not? I'm going to do it. Now I'm in. Once it gets in my head, I can't get it out.
Yeah.
And I wondered, I'm like, is this a misogi? And I'm like, no, it's not. I know I can do it. It might hurt, but I know I can do a 100-mile on a bike. Like, it's not that big.
Unless a car hits you.
But 100-mile, then you're dead. That's rule number 2. You broke rule number 2. But for you to do a 100-mile one-day paddle, that's big.
Well, it is, because there are...
But of course, I'm sitting here going, can I do that?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I know I can't. Should I?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, we'll talk more afterwards.
Or or at least parts of it, right?
See, but I can't do parts of stuff.
I know.
I'm all or nothing.
I know.
That's the way I'm wired.
Well, and that's the reason why, like, I can't predict the wind. The wind could shift on me, and it could be brutal. My Catalina, it was great until I got to the R10 buoy. I was 5.5 hours to the R10, 2.5 hours
This is the
to
classic.
do the 8 miles.
Yeah. The longer it takes, the worse it gets. That's the rule of thumb with the Catalina class.
Exactly. And I thought I was golden. 5.5 to the R10. Yeah.
So going back to whether it be Jesse Itzler, David Goggins, Rich Roll, all these people.
Yeah.
What is it? So is it really just you are focused on being your best physical self, mental, emotional? What are you ultimately looking for?
So Michael Gervais has his podcast called Finding Mastery.
Yep.
There we are.
Yeah.
That's the whole goal.
Got it.
How can I make myself better? And in turn, if I make myself better, then the people around me, ideally, will have a better experience with me. My wife will have a better life, supposedly. The people I teach with, I will be a better teammate, colleague, teacher, all those things. That's what I'm looking at. Because to me, we evolve. And that's why I use that term with my grandfather and everything like that, is that he evolved. He was a better person that I knew than what my mom grew up with. I want to be that person that when somebody looks at me when I'm 70, 75, 80, or when I die, they'll remember that I was such a good person, not I may have been a total and complete ass when I was 23 or 33 or 43 or 53, right? Sure. So
we're very similar. I mean, again, I think this is why we talk a lot about this stuff and we're both focused on the same stuff, because I was a tough kid. I wasn't the best kid to my parents for a number of years. I've worked really hard to be a good person since then. And one day I'll have a big board up here on the wall behind you that says, be good, do good. Because that's, when it comes down to it, that's what moves the world. That's what makes it a better place. That's what makes life, I think, really rewarding when you do good things and you can help others along the path. And I think you do that in spades. And I try to do that as much as I can. And it feels good to be good, right?
So there was a book I read, The Tao of Sports. And it's Jerry Lynch, and I don't remember who the other person is, but they use a guy in there, and I don't remember who it is, but they say, if you were to talk to this person, you would never know how accomplished they are. They make you feel good about you. They ask questions about you. They make you feel as though you are the most important person in that room. And I know that you do that for me. You fill my cup. It's one of those things that I've told you numerous times, that it's like, there are times I just need to talk to you, because whenever I get off the phone after talking to you, I feel better. You may feel like shit because you're like, God.
Nope.
But I feel so much better after talking to you. And I don't think I'm there yet for myself. I can do better. And I know I can do better. And that's sometimes my frustration with myself, is that I know I can do better. I just have to do that. And sometimes if you're tired, if you're frustrated, if you know, you've had a long day or things like that. So for me, paddling also helps me. I'm a better person after I paddle. I'm a better person having been on the water. And you hear people always say, oh, you know, you need to go surf, or you need to go do such and such. I truly believe that for myself. It's like, if you want to see me at my best, me waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go paddle, it's a minor thing in the grand scheme of life. And you will love me so much better, even if I'm a little bit tired.
We're speaking the same language. Again, Randy always knows. It's the standing joke. I'm like, I always love her a little bit more after a big workout, after a big paddle. Like, I come back, I wake up thinking, and I go to bed, I'm always thinking, like, I can't wait for Saturday morning. Saturday morning, big, long 20-mile plus paddles are my favorite things. Yeah. They always have been. races aren't races for me anymore. Like I enjoy doing adventures and doing big accomplishments, but the racing doesn't have the allure. It's the path. It's the training. I've always loved those Saturday morning. That's my happy place. Long distance, hopefully with a couple friends in nature. And if you listen to all the podcasts that we listen to, those are the things, I don't care who you're listening to.
Yeah.
They're all saying the same thing: time in nature and camaraderie and athleticism and passion. Like that's what, in this case, for me now, it's paddling. It's always been paddling of some sort, some craft. It's cycling. It was marathon running. I love that. And my doctor once told me, he's like, you're using up all your heartbeats. And I was like, if that's what it takes, I don't think he's correct in that. But yeah, it makes me such a better person. And that's where my thinking happens. Like if I turn off the music and I'm on a long paddle, like sometimes it's dangerous to be in my head at that time.
Right.
But that's when good stuff happens.
Well,
that's when things happen.
Well, I will say this. I have people that always ask me, why don't you listen to music when you paddle? It's like, because I'm okay being in my own head.
I can't be there that long.
Some people would disagree with that statement, but I like being in my head. I'm an okay person.
It's good. It's good. You're a good person. Listen, and I'm going to turn that into the next one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you some questions. Do you have a superpower?
No.
So I think you have one. And I think I was thinking about it earlier. Everybody has one. Some people have more. Sometimes you don't see it as clearly. You're a very nice guy. So as far as you trying to continue to get better and you want to be better than you were when you were younger, like if you have a superpower, you're a nice guy. That's why you're approachable. That's why you help people out. So if your path is to continue to be like your grandfather and evolve, dude, you're way further down the field than you may recognize, in my opinion.
Well, I appreciate that.
That's what I think. It's funny. I want to touch on this just because I think it's representative of you. You and I and Ron Witter stayed together at a VRBO up at Hood River for the Gorge Downwood Champs this summer and had a ball. I'm a pretty organized guy.
Yes.
You make me look like a disaster.
No, I
have to frame this. This guy would not let me touch anything. He would help me, like I could help him put something on the car, but he had to strap it down. He had to organize everything in the car perfectly, methodically, and you were snappy. You were like, you're like a taskmaster. And I was like, all right, dude, it's not very often that I am not in the mix, but you told me what to do, and it was pretty interesting, pretty funny to watch.
You said that at the time, and it's my wife's joke with me. She tells people, she's like, just let him do it. He'll be so much happier if he does.
I found out you wanted to do all the work, and pretty much I felt like Caltrans because Ron and I just sat around and watched you do all the hard work.
Well, it's my happy place.
Hallelujah. 10 years from now, so you're doing all this mindset stuff. You're 53, still doing big paddles. You have aspirations for a 100-miler this year.
Yeah.
That's pretty friggin' rad. We're going to have to talk about that offline. 10 years from now, what would you like to be able to look back at the last, from here it's the next 10, but at that point you're looking back, you're 63, looking back to the 10 behind. What do you hope you see?
A life well lived. And that's not a cop-out, but it's a life well lived that I can look back, and people always say your job isn't the important thing. It's the relationships and all the memories and experiences. To me, it's all of that. I want my time in my classroom to be impactful. I want my time with my wife to be meaningful. I want my time with my friends to have, memories that I can look and laugh and cry and all those types of things. A well-lived life, it's so encompassing to me that it's not one thing or another, it's everything. You can just go, that was good. Sort of like if you were to have a great meal or a great dessert or whatever, and you'd be like, that
was it.
That was it.
So that ability to look back on your life and be proud of what you accomplished and how you lived and everything you did.
Because I will say this past year for me, 2023, has been probably, given everything in my life, everything, a sister's suicide, a mom's death, all those types of things. Last year was my toughest year as a person. Not because of necessarily big things, but I had to dig into myself. And I'm hoping that in doing the work and digging into myself, the next 10 years will be so much more fulfilling and meaningful.
Well, listen, if anybody is doing the work, and we've talked about some of this stuff, between what you listen to, what you read, where you focus your attention, how you do the work, how you show up. If I have a magic wand moment for you, is that you get everything you want in 2024, and it's exactly, and for the next 10 years, and that's exactly what you're doing. But you're doing, I just want to commend you on, you are doing the work. I think the challenge with people a lot of time is what they want. They're not willing to do the work. But when you're planning to paddle 100 miles, or doing 50, or doing 50 on your 50th, or doing 72 in honor of your mom, you know how to do the work. And it translates not just from paddling, but through everything in your life. And I think that with that ethic and ethos, you're well on the path. Well, I hope so.
In putting in a physical, that's sort of easy. And I say that recognizing that 72 miles or 50 on my 50th, those things are grandiose for a lot of people. But I look at that and I go, okay, it's a key to unlock something, but I want to be at a better level as a person. And if that helps me unlock something, just like you level up, I want to unlock that. And I want to keep unlocking, and I want to have those keys, and I want to be better.
Rad. Well, let's keep leveling up and unlocking in 2024. Here's to 100 miles.
Yes.
And Wade, thanks so much for being part of the Passion Project and for being part of the genesis of my podcast, Nerdism, and just for being a good friend and for all the good stuff that you do.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks, brother.